If buying a leasehold property is your only option onto the property ladder, you're going to be wanting to watch this video. I had my own leasehold property. I had a nightmare selling it. I know everything and anything that could come up during your purchase, and today I'm going to be showing you everything you need to check when purchasing a leasehold property and the things you need to check on listings before you even go to view the property with an estate agent. The estate agents are notorious for giving you misleading and wrong information. They only want a sale at the end of the day. So I'm going to tell you the questions you need to ask, the things you need to look for, and the things you definitely shouldn't even be considering looking at when you're purchasing a leasehold property. Now, I'm going to start the video by sharing with you the key things you need to check before you even go and look at a potential leasehold property, before you even view it. This is going to cut the wood from the trees, and it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of annoyance further down the line. Now, the most frustrating thing is estate agents are not truthful about leasehold properties, and actually they might not even be privy to the information to start with. Now, there are key things that really should be included on a estate agency listing when you're looking at it on RightMove or Zoopla, and I'm going to show you exactly what those key things are that you need to check today. Now, when you are viewing the listing, you're not going to be privy to a lot of information, but the bare minimum that you're going to need to know is your length of lease, your service charge amount, and your annual ground rent. Now, length of lease is the most important, and I say in all my videos, when you purchase a leasehold property, you do not own a brick, okay? You own a leasehold agreement with your freeholder. It's a glorified rental agreement, and it basically pertains everything and anything to do with your flat. The lease will include information about your service charges, your ground rent, and if you can make alterations to your property, etc, etc. But the most important thing here is the length of that. Now, you don't want to be taking on a lease that's very short or below 90 years, because it's going to cost more money to extend the lease. And when we talk about the amount of money it can cost to extend a lease, we're talking in the thousands, and if not tens of thousands. Now, if you let it get to 80 years, something called marriage value sets in, and it becomes even more expensive to extend a lease. So in my opinion, the longer the lease, the better. Anything over 110 years, but still I wouldn't do anything less, and anything above that is a bonus. But remember, you are on a ticking time bomb. If you don't choose to extend your lease in the future, it goes back to the freehold and you have nothing left. And this just reinstates that feeling and the sentiment. You don't own anything. You don't even own a brick in your own property. So the lease is really important, but your ground rent is another really important one as well. Now, your ground rent is an annual fee you pay to the freeholder who owns the land. It doesn't actually go to anything. It doesn't go towards maintenance. It's literally just to say thank you to the landlord who owns the land that your property resides on. Now, there is a big thing about ground rent at the moment, which makes it really difficult to sell a property and even to get a mortgage on a property. If you have a ground rent over £250 outside of London or £1,000 inside of London, you've got a problem on your hands, because something called AST, Assured Short Hold Tenancy, sets in, and it basically means if you fall into ground rent arrears, the property can easily be taken back by the freeholder. This makes mortgage lenders really wary, and basically they're not lending. If they don't want to lend, the route at the moment is a deed of variation or a leasehold extension, which can cost a seller thousands and thousands of pounds. So really, when you're looking at ground rent figures, you want something really, really low. And of course, the next one is service charge. You're going to have your mortgage repayments, but you're also going to have service charge repayments as well. And they can make a big difference to your monthly outgoings. They might even be more than buying a house, which was definitely true for me. My service charge was around £85 to £90 a month. It really, really does add up on top of everything else. So that's something really, really important to be mindful of as well. So now we've covered those three really, really important things. It's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many more things you need to check when purchasing a flat. But before you even get to that stage, I'm going to show you where to find that information on an estate agent listing as well. Okay, so I'm looking forward to going through these with you. I'm just going to grab a few listings. I'm going to look at them live with you as you watch these, just to see what's on the market, how they're disclosing leasehold, and where you need to be looking for this key information before booking your viewing. So I'm specifically looking at flats. This one's come up at the top, And I'm interested to look at this one because it's being sold with a tenant that's in situ. Now, this can happen for a number of reasons. Perhaps they've got a contract, they've got to stay, but also it's possibly because the landlord has to sell up for a number of reasons. It could be because of the mortgage interest rates, or it could be something a little bit more sinister about the lease. But that's probably me being cynical. So let's have a look. So we've got this leasehold. Sometimes the information you might find in the description, very more often than not, the estate agents are basically not going to give you anything in here because they want you to ring up. They want you to ring up. They want to get you on your books before they've even disclosed what's going on with the leasehold. Well, first you've got agent note. It's our understanding that the property is not registered at the land registry. So this is an issue at the moment where the land registry is got a backlog of registering properties. So it's probably likely that they've actually purchased this pretty recently, maybe in the last year, without seeing any information. We currently hold lease details as displayed above. Should you require further information, please contact our branch. Where does it say anything about the lease? It's literally got no information about the lease. So let's have a look down here. Right, here we go. Lease information is here. Firstly, it's always going to display your ground rent, annual service charge, and length of lease. If they don't have the information, or it's a bit ambiguous, it's going to say ask agent. Now, the ground rent is £240 per year. Now, we're £10 off that AST threshold. These properties are in Plymouth. So this is likely to be an issue because it's very near and it probably has ground rent review terms, which I haven't already mentioned. So in your lease, your ground rent will typically raise every 10 years, 20 years, or it might not at all. And sometimes it could be in line with the rate of RPI. It could be a set amount. So it's likely that it's going to take you over that £250 figure. And it is probably going to be an issue with a mortgage lender. So for something like this, I wouldn't touch this because it's going to cause you an issue. It's going to be a long-winded process because the seller is going to have to get a deed of variation or a lease extension. Now, annual service charge is £1,200. Not too bad, to be honest. I mean, your service charge is always going to be more money if there's a bigger block, if there's a lift, if there's like a car parking meter, all those sorts of things. This probably just has stairs. I don't think it says it's a lift. So really, service charge is not too bad. But when you are in the process of purchasing a flat, when it's going through, you need to ask for at least 2 years worth of annual service charge. It's going to give you a good idea how much the rent has increased over that period of time, and it's going to give you an indication on what your service charge might be in the following years. Now, the only alarm bell here for me is length of lease, ask agent. There's probably a reason they've not put this in. It should be very transparent. It takes a second to put it in. So it's probably because it's a short length of lease. It's going to be an issue. I'd love to ring this agent and ask them right now. I'm not going to do that because they're going to ask me to put it on their books. But yeah, if it says ask agent, red flag. Okay, this one looks pretty interesting. So this one is in a grade listed building. It's 3 bedrooms. It's already been reduced. It's been reduced on the 21st of September. It's 250,000. So houses are less than this in Plymouth anyway, if you want to do a little bit of work. It's got before I even click through, it's got a video entry system, which is already going to make your service charges a bit more expensive. It does say it's newly renovated though. So potentially it might have a ground rent of £0 and peppercorn if it's a new lease, but there might be a reason it's being reduced other than it being just too overpriced. So let's have a look. Quick scan through. Nothing's been mentioned at all in this description. Let's get to the good part. Oh, there's no information. There's absolutely no lease information here at all. Tenure, ask agent. Again, this is a red flag. There's a reason they've not detailed this. It's a new build, and I would probably say it's because they haven't finalised lease details just yet. And if this is a case, always avoid properties like this because it's going to be too ambiguous. The same thing happened with my flat. It was a brand new lease, and they just didn't know what they were doing. So let's go and look at another one. Now, this is interesting. I actually viewed a flat in this property years and years ago when I was buying a flat. So let's have a look. It's leasehold. They've actually clearly said it's leasehold this time. Barely any information. Oh, here we go. Right. 109-year lease. Now, this probably explains why they're selling it. It's under that 110 mark, which is my special number. Avoid this like the plague. This is a red flag. You do not want to get involved with a lease of this length. Service charge, £3,916 per year. Now, this is quite a bit. This is a lot for a service charge in Plymouth. It's not in the Royal William Yard, which is a really expensive part of Plymouth. And this is because there is a lift in the building. So you're going to be paying for the servicing of that. As you can see, it's a huge block. You've got all the cleaning charges, probably roof repairs, everything and everything in between. A big block is always going to carry higher service charges. But we've not even got to the good part yet. The ground rent is already at £270 per year. This is a complete no-go. Avoid it like the plague. This flat is going to be sitting on here for a really long period of time. Leasehold flats seemingly aren't moving off the market anymore. This has actually got a lease, what I'd call a lease defect. So it's going to have to be sold at a slightly reduced price. I mean, who cares? It's a penthouse apartment. If it's got a lease defect, you're not going to be able to shift it. Now, I could look through these absolutely all day. I find it fascinating, the information, and you can really tell why someone is selling a property to start with. Now, I actually found a listing earlier, which I really want to share with you because I couldn't believe how it was being sold. Okay, I found it. So this listing, this property is in one of the nicest places in Plymouth. It's probably got a sea view if it's not on the ground floor. And I mean, where else would you want to be in Plymouth? It's gorgeous, it's Georgian, one of my favourite types of properties. Now, let's get to the bit what I just couldn't believe. It's being sold for £199,000, which is quite a lot for a two-bedroom apartment. You might be watching this in London thinking, that's cheap. Well, in terms of Plymouth prices, this is a lot. You could get a two-bed house for this cost. You might have to do a bit of work to it, but you could get it in a nice area and you wouldn't have the leasehold sort of, hanging over you. Now, this is just so alarming. I mean, we've not even got to the bit about the lease term, and I've seen this. There are Section 20 works being undertaken, of which the new purchaser may be responsible. Price to be confirmed, but approximately £4,050. Now, I'm sorry, but no. Section 20 is basically served on a building, a leasehold property, when there is a lot of work that's got to be done and it can't be done within your annual service charge. So this is likely something that's going to be quite big. It could be a big roofing job. It could be crumbling walls. It could be a structural issue. It literally could be anything. Now, I don't know how many flats are in this building, but it's going to be something that's really, really costly. Now, £4,050 could be the equivalent to 4 years worth of service charge. Now, I don't know who in their right mind would want to inherit this, and this technically should be sold at a vastly reduced price because it has a lease defect. So this property will be interesting to see what it goes for, because it is not going to go for asking price. No way. Now, we understand the apartment is held on a lease with 98 years remaining. Now, I'm sorry, but this just gets better. Not only has it got a Section 20, it's got 98 years remaining on the lease. We are getting ever closer to marriage value. But as you get under that 100-year mark, it becomes even less attractive. They are going to struggle getting rid of this. And even if you see a property that is being sold at a vastly reduced price, there is a reason for that, and I would avoid it because it is going to cost you so much money to extend your lease. It's got a service charge of 3% of outgoings. Well, I'm not being funny, but that's not actually clear. 3% of outgoings of what? The cost of the property. This is too ambiguous. And an annual ground rent of a peppercorn. So this is potentially the only good thing of the property. Now, it's interesting it's got a peppercorn when the lease has only got 98 years remaining. But yeah, it's just very interesting. So it might not be a large freeholder that sort of owns the property. But yeah, I mean, this is just terrible. And you can get a real good indication if
estate agents are transparent whether to book a viewing or not. Now, at this stage, you're not going to be privy to information about who your freeholder is. You're probably not going to get this information until you get your LPE1 form or management pack from your solicitor. Now, at this point, you need to research your freeholder everywhere. Reviews, Facebook groups, everything in between, because it's going to be very telling of how they are to deal with. It's going to give you an indication of costs, if they're money grabbing freeholders, which most of them are, and if there's been any public, news stories on the freeholder. You're not going to get it at this stage. You might be able to get you might be able to ask your estate agent, but they're probably just not going to be privy to this information. Now, I'm sorry, but as far as listings go, this is definitely the worst. But yeah, I mean, I thought it'd be interesting to go through these listings with you today, live with you, just to show you what things you need to be looking for, and what things might ring alarm bells. And, once you know what to look for, it's pretty easy to easily pick out a diamond in the rough or something that just has too many red flags and to avoid it completely.
I hope you enjoyed watching today's video. That's everything in a nutshell that you need to look for before you purchase a leasehold property, or a leasehold agreement in this case. But if you have any other questions or advice you want to give people, please do leave me a comment below and I'll come straight back to you, as it really helps everyone who's considering purchasing a leasehold property in the future. My name's Nicole and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please do give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed watching, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video.